Welcome to the POMcast with Steve Willis, your independent, unbiased, and unbought source for Ole Miss athletics. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is October the 8th, 2020, Ole Miss Alabama week here on the POMcast. Thanks for joining us. And before we get into it, you can, of course, follow us on Twitter at the Stephen Willis or at Ole Positively. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast or join our Facebook group at positivelyolemiss. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at positivelyolemiss. Hit the bell for notifications and join up with us at Twitch at positivelyolemiss, all one word. Of course, audio-wise, we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, I think iHeartRadio and Pandora. We're waiting on final confirmation of that. I just honestly, I have not checked in the last couple of days, so we may be there already. Subscribe to those local channels, and you can get the podcast any way you normally get podcasts. So we're trying to do that for you. Around the SEC today at 2 o'clock. Tune in for that. We go over Tennessee versus Georgia. Israel Troop joins the show, a former Georgia wide receiver. It's well worth a listen. And, of course, we do our picks at the end. So tune in for that. All right, we're here basically talking about Ole Miss and Bama and Hurricane Delta and what does it mean. And basically yesterday, Lane Kiffin said there was 3 contingencies on top of playing Saturday. And that was play Friday, play Sunday, play November 7th, or play it as scheduled. Those are the 4 ways the game was going to be handled. At this point, it is 7 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. Nothing has come out yet that I've seen, so I can't just say what is going to happen. I just don't know. We're going to proceed like it's going to happen as usual. Bama Online said they were going to play the game Saturday because the front's going to be out, and Chuck Rounsaville of the Ole Miss Spirit on Twitter said they were talking 6:30 at night. Pushing the game back from 5 to 6:30 to allow the storm to get out of the way. So both of those possibilities, I mean, they could work. But here's the actual reason that I question this. Per talking to people yesterday, they said Friday was a near impossibility in order to get set up. So it's probably not going to be a game on Friday. Don't expect a game on Friday. Secondly, Sunday and November 7th. Sunday will interfere with preparation for Georgia, and November 7th will interfere with preparation for LSU. Nick Saban's not going to go for either one of those. So my guess, at this point, fairly educated guess, is they're going to play the game Saturday night. Now, we were supposed to be at 5 and LSU was supposed to be at 8. LSU has moved to 11 and is playing in Columbia. So that 8 o'clock window, that hard out, is no longer there. So they could move this game to 6:30 if they wanted to and just treat it as normal on ESPN. But that's kind of where we stand right now. The highest chance of showers per day is Saturday, and that's 80%. It says showers and breezy for Oxford, Mississippi. On Saturday day, that night, it goes down to a 50% chance of showers. So I think this is going to look better to play the game and may not be as much of a rain event as initially thought. They're expecting 1 to 2 inches of rain Saturday day, and between half and 3/4 Saturday night. So it's still probably going to be a wet game. Keep that in mind. But it's not nearly tracking where it was. The storm has moved a little bit further west. And it's still going to blow up to Mississippi, which is going to mean later arrival. We would like that storm to just kind of push through. If that storm is in Corinth, for instance, by kickoff, it won't be nearly as bad. That storm's in Greenwood, we've got a problem. So that's kind of what we're looking at on the storm. But the forecast right now at NOAA, and that's where the weather is being gotten from, NOAA. And Saturday, showers likely, then showers, then possibly a thunderstorm after 1 p.m. High near 73, breezy with east-southeast wind 15 to 20 miles an hour, decreasing to 10 to 15 miles an hour in the afternoon. Winds could gust as high as 30 miles an hour. Chance of precipitation is 80%. New rainfall amounts between 1 and 2 inches possible. If you go to Saturday night, it is a 50% chance of showers. Mostly cloudy with a low around 66. Southeast wind around 10 miles an hour, becoming southwest after midnight. New precipitation amounts between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch possible. It's kind of looking like it's trending towards 6:30. And that's not even to mention that Chuck Rounsaville said 6:30, and whenever usually Chuck Rounsaville says something, it happens. There's probably nobody more connected in the Ole Miss athletic department than Chuck Rounsaville. So he's probably getting information from somewhere. And we should take it like he's telling the truth until he is proven wrong. He's getting the benefit of the doubt all day, every day. He's not in this 1 of 25 miss of reporters that have been covering Ole Miss over the last couple of years. He's not a part of that. So when he says something, take it as gospel until proven otherwise. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back and see us in a little bit.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen. As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
All right, POMcast, Stephen Willis, thanks for joining us on this Thursday. We were just talking about hurricane warnings. Nothing has come over Twitter in the last couple of minutes. but I thought I'd let you know anyway. Now, let's take a second to look at the Alabama defense and realize that this is not the Alabama defense of old. And what do I mean by that? I mean, we're 2 games in at this point, and they have 3 sacks. One of those is shared. Christian Harris, it looks like, and Dylan Moses, their linebacker-dominated team. But it just doesn't look like a normal Alabama stat sheet. Now, they have 2 interceptions this year. Daniel Wright and Malachi Moore, DBs. Sacks, Christian Harris 1. Dylan Moses, a half sack. Josh Jobe, a DB, 1. And LeBron Ray, 5. What that tells me is 2 blitzes got home in 2 weeks, and there was a coverage sack. That's what that tells me. Now, if you look at passes defended, Malachi Moore, who has a pick, he's leading the team in passes defended. He's probably the best member of that secondary. But I'm not overly concerned about their defense. Patrick Surtain, probably the most highly rated person back there, he's just been average so far. He's due for a breakout maybe, but maybe not. So, looking at their stats, nothing is overly impressive on defense. Now, on offense, that's a different story, but on defense, it's just not overly impressive. They beat Missouri 38-19. They beat Texas A&M in 52-24. If it wasn't for their explosive offense, they'd probably been in trouble. They gave up 24 points. It was 14-14 at one point. Now, if you look at teams, Mac Jones threw for 249 against Missouri, and then basically threw bombs against Texas A&M to John Mechie III and Jalen Waddle. And they still haven't had a 100-yard rusher this season. That's probably going to change Saturday because the weather conditions are going to lean that way. But Ole Miss gets the benefit of the next week when it comes to Alabama. They don't want to screw with this game because they don't want to screw up preparation for Georgia. That's the game. That's the one they're focused on. If they could just get to Georgia, especially after Georgia dominated Auburn, they know it's the first game of the year. And that's the reason they don't want to move it to 7 and screw up the preparation for LSU, who beat them last year. So that's what we're dealing with. That's how it's looking from the Alabama perspective. Ole Miss will do either one. They don't matter. Just put the ball down and let's go. But Alabama is so regimented. People don't realize how regimented Nick Saban is. And messing up one day of preparation where Sunday is supposed to be the off day, now it's Monday, they've lost a day of practice. That's a sincerely big deal. And Mac Jones against Georgia's defense, there's a lot of stuff that day that is going to be worth watching. Mac Jones versus that defense, it's going to be like the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. That offense versus that defense. And then on the flip side, a whole bunch of average is going to show up. It doesn't look like it's going to fit. Georgia has to get through number 14 Tennessee first, which I think they will, but Tennessee has the longest acting winning streak in the SEC. Nobody on the Ole Misses that covers it will mention that because they all hate Tennessee for some reason. I don't understand. But, yeah, Tennessee has the longest active winning streak in the SEC. And if they had a quarterback, they would probably be back. But if you watch around the SEC, I touched on this a couple of times. Georgia's defense under Kirby Smart eats offenses like Tennessee for lunch. So I'm not giving Tennessee much of a shot to win this game. In fact, I'm thinking a 3-touchdown cover for Georgia. But Georgia is also looking ahead to Alabama too. So Tennessee and Ole Miss have the best positions you can possibly have against Alabama and Georgia this season. They're completely looking ahead. It's an absolute trap game, but you still have to execute. You still have to do what you have to do. And if you don't, they have the athletes and the personnel to make you look silly. But as we have told you, this is the longest spring practice in history. No eligibility counting is going on. And if you are not using this season for developmental purposes, you're doing it wrong. This season is as close to do not matter as you can get. It just is. You can go to a bowl game at 0-10. You can play your sophomore year over. There's no eligibility clock, and there's no money to really fire coaches. I mean, you really have to go down the road of just going into debt to remove somebody from office or in their position. There's a chance South Carolina might do it. Obviously, look at Billy Napier there, but Vanderbilt, the last AD, they made a disastrous hire who just blew through money, spending like a drunken socialist sailor, and they just basically don't have money now. It's this dangest thing. So Derek Mason may get another year by basically default. And that team is filled with, LSU, they looked like a bunch of freshmen, which they are. But they're not just freshmen, they're Vandy freshmen in the SEC. So it can be a mismatch, which makes me laugh at Texas A&M all the more. And on the air raid, as you saw, as most Ole Miss fans know, got shut down by playing a singular coverage. Some combination of rushing 3 and dropping 8. You could have 3 defensive backs at the back end of your defense. You could have 2, and underneath you could have 5 or 6, but it worked out the same. No man coverage was played. No crossing routes was available. And they didn't have any way to do it. They're so young. They're so impatient to get it done that eventually they just made a mistake. And it's the same bend but don't break defense that has been around for 100 years. Just because this is the air raid doesn't make that any different. You just want the offense to make a mistake before they drive it down to score a touchdown. You want a punt or a field goal, preferably. But Anyway, we've gotten a little bit off topic at the moment. I guess I wanted to talk about the SEC a little bit. But also, LSU has an offense problem that masks their defensive problem at the moment. They have the potential to be pretty broken by the time this is all said and done. So keep an eye on that. They beat Vandy because Vandy is not good. They lost to Mississippi State because they have problems. And that problem is they could not play zone defense. This was talked about last week. It wasn't practice. It wasn't repped. Can you imagine not to be able to play zone defense in college football? It's almost like the Soviet Union and the Miracle on Ice not pulling the goalie and not understanding how to adjust to the situation because they just don't get there. When somebody commits to something that can expose your man coverage, you've got to have a backup plan. They had none. And it also didn't hurt that Derek Stingley was out that day. But it's going to be a fun, frustrating season. As I've told you before, celebrate the positives, ignore the negatives. That's the only way we're going to get through this. All right. We're going to we're going to pay a couple of bills. We'll see you in a little bit.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
All right, last segment of the POMcast. Hope you are doing well. I am currently monitoring Twitter to make sure that if something can be found for Hurricane Delta, it will be to you as soon as possible. I am not confident at the moment because we got about 4 minutes of recording, but it is what it is. Anyway, we are available. Follow us on Twitter at the Stephen Willis or at Ole Positively. Hit us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast or join our Facebook group at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Positively Ole Miss and hit the bell for notifications, and join us on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. We're streaming every day at 10 o'clock. Always great to have new people come in. We are really growing, and it's kind of fun to see. Motivates me even further to do this because we're on so many platforms. It could show up on one to have a relatively low number, and then there's a spike on another, and it's just really cool. And I just really appreciate it. And thank you very, very much. Anyway, we were talking Ole Miss and Alabama and Hurricane Delta. which now looks like it's going to be basically a low pressure front when it passes through Oxford. And I mean, all that is good. We're looking at probably a delay of a couple of hours, not anything with a day. As we told you earlier, if you just turned on to this premiere a little bit late, Friday is nearly impossible according to sources. Sunday interferes with Alabama's Georgia prep, and November 7th interferes with LSU's prep. Nick Saban is extremely regimented and has said that it looks like we're going to try to play Saturday. The storm should be through by then, and it should pose no danger to players. So that's what we're looking at. That's where we stand. Chuck Rounsaville of the Ole Miss Spirit said that the strong rumor was that they were pushing it to 6:30, which kind of makes a little bit of sense. And that jives also with the we're going to try to play coming from Alabama. So, obviously, be cautious whenever you head up to the game if you're heading that way. It's only 25% capacity anyway. And since LSU and Mizzou got moved to 11 o'clock, there's not the hard out at 8 like there was. They can push that game to 6:30 and leave it exactly where it is. All you have to do is do a scoreboard show for an hour, 45 minutes, depending on the game before on ESPN. Or you might be able to move a game on ESPN2 or something to be the 2:30 game on ESPN. That'll go till 6:30 anyway. So there's an avenue for them to do this, and I'm not totally expecting anything. Really, there's no expectations of this game. I recommend all Ole Miss fans to keep the same. Again, celebrate the positives, ignore the negatives, develop. 2021 is more important than 2020, and 2022 is more important than 2021. That may not be Lane's philosophy, but it's absolutely true. This is a rebuild. Lane Kiffin isn't here because we had a stacked roster. We've got holes. And in this COVID era, we're probably just now learning our roster. So, be patient. Enjoy this season for everything it can be enjoyed. Because, honestly, it can. We're playing football, guys. That matters. We get that escape. So, Ole Miss versus Alabama sometime probably Saturday. There's been no update from the university at the time of recording. It is now 7:33. And no official thing has been laid out for the game. So our expectation is sometime in between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock on Saturday. They'll kick it off. Toe will meet leather, and we will play a little football. It's going to be wet weather. We get to see which quarterback is the better wet ball thrower. Nick Saban is practicing that. I'm sure we are as well. So, it's going to be a fun ride. It has been a fun ride. But it's because the positives have been celebrated, the negatives have been ignored, and you just worked on building constantly for the next thing. Celebrate, build. Celebrate, build. Celebrate, build. That's the secret sauce. All right, guys, that is it Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, for the POMcast. Good day.